Okay. I'm going to call you. We're going out on the web right now.
Weird though.
We're getting close to the program start, so there might be people seeing this. We're going out on the web right now. As you get close to the program start, so there might be people seeing this. Okay, testing. This is the test, the pre-program test. How you doing, Dan? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
There's a ringing in there somewhere. What is that? Okay, testing. This is the test. It is. Oh, okay. Now, do you have the actual? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty
There's
good.
a ringing in there somewhere. What is that? Okay, testing. This is the test. It is.
Coming through.
Do you have the actual? How you doing?
It's coming good.
Are you coming through your there on the player? You are.
Think so. It's coming good. Sounded like it.
Are you coming through your there on the player? You are.
Think so. Was a minute ago, but it sounded like it.
Are you coming through your there?
Keep reloading.
On the player? You are.
Was a minute ago, but it sounded like it.
Were you coming through on that?
Keep reloading.
You were?
Was a minute ago, but it sounded like it.
Were you coming through on that?
Keep reloading.
So you did come through your phone into this. Yeah, but well, no, because it goes through a server. You did come through. Say some more. Say some more things. So, but it did come through. Yeah, but well, no. Yeah, I know, but mine's not. It's your machine. You need to stop it and restart it. Say some more things. Yeah, refresh. So, but it did come through. Yeah, I know, but mine's not. It's your machine. You need to stop it and restart it. Yeah, refresh. So, but it did come through. Yeah, I know, but mine's not. It's your machine. You need to stop it and restart it. Yeah, refresh. So, but it did come through. Yeah, I know, but mine's not. It's your machine. You need to stop it and restart it. What, you're calling me?
Yeah.
Just start talking.
What's going on, George?
What, you're
1,
calling
2,
me?
3, testing. 1, 2, 3, testing. 1, 2, 3, testing. Testing. 1, 2, 3. What's going on, George? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, testing. 1, 2, 3, testing. 1, 2, 3, testing. Testing. 1, 2, 3. What's going on, George? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, testing. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, testing. Testing. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, testing.
We got it. Okay. We got it. That's good. We got it. Okay. Good. Huh? We got it.
1, 2,
Okay.
3.
We got it. That's good. We got it. Okay. We got it. Good. Huh? Then I figured it out then. Okay. Thank goodness. Okay. We got it now. Okay. Now we're going to go down with. Good. Huh? Then I figured it out then. Okay. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Where you
Testing.
put the mic?
Nikki Rapana, this is George Butler, live on location.tv. You're live on the air right now. How are you this evening?
Oh, I'm fine. You're coming in kind of blippy.
Oh, am I? I'm on Skype, so is that better now? Is that a little bit better?
What's that?
Is that better now?
Oh, yeah.
Is that better?
Yes, that is.
Okay. How you doing tonight? Welcome to our program. We're here broadcasting live from College Station, and that's the home of Texas A&M Aggies. How are you doing up there in Alaska?
Oh, pretty good. It's above freezing.
Oh my gosh, it isn't. Boy, I tell you, Nikki, we've come down here and made a special trip from Austin because they're going to have a speech by our president tomorrow here at College Station at the Rudder Theater. And he's going to be speaking about community service and the Points of Light Foundation, which are headed up by the Bushes, former President Bush, are his host here in Texas A&M. And we thought it would be appropriate to bring you in and give our viewing audience some exposure to all your study and your in-depth insights. What about community activism from your perspective, and how do you relate? Tell you what, Nikki. Tell us who you are right now. Tell us where you're broadcasting from, and what has been some of your background. Tell us, our viewing audience, a little bit about yourself. You're coming in remote. We're broadcasting live from College Station, video and audio. But tell us a little bit about yourself, Nikki, and your background.
I'm a 53 years old Army brat, raised by a retired sergeant major in the U.S. Army who raised me on basic American principles. And when I encountered the communitarians in Seattle, I already had a pretty good grasp of Marxist terminology, so I recognized it and I started researching where it was coming from. And I found it. That's pretty much all my work now.
Well, when you say communitarianism, what do you mean by that?
Communitarianism, in their own words, is basically making America into a collective community where everyone has shared responsibilities as well as individual rights. So what they've done is balanced our way of life and our law that protects it against the greater good, and now they all our common destiny, that they say things like rights cannot long be preserved without equal responsibilities or even more responsibilities. And so basically what they're doing now is reintroducing Americans to the concept of serving the community as well as their selfish individual pursuits.
I see. So one of the things in your readings and your writings over the years I noticed was communitarians tend to value community rights over those of individual rights. Well, what's your comments on that?
Well, first of all, the community that they're describing doesn't exist. It's one of those lovely vague terms that can mean anything to anybody who's listening and the people who are talking about it. The reality is that community law is the law of the trade unions. The WTO practices community law. The European Union is built entirely on community law. So it has legal implications as well as this nice 50s neighborhood mentality that most people hear when they hear the word community. That's what they think. And they're happy to be part of a community, most people. But that's not what's really happening. So it's one of those words that community rights, being that they don't exist, there hasn't really been any debate between real individual rights iterated in our constitutions in our state and federal, opposed to community rights, which haven't been written down anywhere, and they're just sort of what they call evolving.
Right.
And that's the debate that I want in on.
I see. You have several websites. Tell us about your websites and what are the best websites to get information on this from you.
Boy, George, you're really blipping in and out. You asking me about my websites?
Yeah, tell us where we can find some of this information at.
Well, the first website we built is the Anti-Communitarian League. It's at my daughter's hosting service, nord.twu.net. And from that homepage at nord.twu.net, you can get to the ACL, which is the Anti-Communitarian League. You can get to my blog, which is Living Outside the Dialectic. And it goes specifically to a couple of things like the Anti-Communitarian Manifesto. There's a direct link to that there too. And some of the projects that I work on are on there also that don't have anything really to do with communitarianism or my stand against it. It's just people get really interested and curious about my life, so every now and then I try and explain who I am, which is really impossible. But
have you been jumped on? Yeah, go ahead. Excuse me. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say I appeal to such a diverse group of people. I mean, the environmentalists like me because of my lifestyle with my yurts and my, low impact housing, safe and affordable. And yeah, they don't. I wonder what happens sometimes when they come and actually read my political stand against their law. But I'm able to be friends with these people, so it's kind of been an interesting journey in opposing the global takeover of all nations. And along the way, I'm meeting people from every walk of life that support various parts of the global agenda, but that doesn't stop them from still being interested in how I live, So
I wanted to bring that up at the beginning of our conversation so they could go to those sites, and start looking at some of your writings right now while they're live. They're looking at this and viewing this on the internet all over. And so they can come in, and this thing is so dynamic now, the web. And they can come in and look at your sites and follow the conversation and listen to you and listen to our conversation right now. You are really in depth in your writings, and you've really taken this thing apart and put it back together, have you not?
Yes, and I didn't hear any of that last stuff that you just said.
Oh, okay.
It's like coming in really flippy.
Okay. Are you taking this apart and putting it back together fairly in depth, aren't you?
Yes, I started my research from the present and moved backwards. I'm not one of those kind of people that go looking for evidence of some great conspiracy that started 5,000 years ago. Now, the research could take me there if I let it. You can keep going, but I was really more interested in how it was affecting me and my neighbors living in Seattle that were being, we were a pilot test for some of their new behavior training and legal programs that they set up. I mean, it's actually very legal. They want to come inside people's houses and help them live better. It's all about training to communitarians that we need to be retrained how to think and how to live. So that was my focus, and it's kind of stayed my focus, is what gives them the right and when did they get the right to do this. And in fact, they do not have it. All their programs are still volunteer. You might not know about them. You might be in them like we were and not know that you're in one. But once you find out you're in them, which is what happened to me, I tried to get out of it. I asked for a withdrawal, and I never got one. So you can't get out. It's like these are programs that they've already instituted. They come through all the agencies. Once 9/11 happened and they created, the Department of Homeland Security, and all the agencies came under one umbrella. Now it's even more difficult to differentiate between what programs are coming out of what agency. So mostly my research is program and policy research. And then I had to go after their philosophy, and I had to understand our history and how this happened. That was kind of a personal endeavor, but it ends up being the one that people are very interested in. Our Hegelian dialectic page is still our top hit at the ACL. People want to know what that is. And my thesis about it is probably different than what you've read about it anywhere else. So,
tell us how you differ from the normal view of the Hegelian dynamic or view. Tell us how you differ and where you agree.
Well, communitarianism is defined by numerous sources, Jesuits writing in South America, and the European Union President Claus of the Czech Republic has written at length about communitarianism, and the fact is that it is the synthesis, which is the final balance between communism and capitalism. That's the political theory. And the legal theory goes along with that. And the philosophy is based on the idea that opposites are constantly in conflict, and that out of each conflict comes a better solution, a better idea for humanity, and that we are all moving through all of these conflicts into perfection. So war is really a good thing to a communitarian because it moves us faster towards our ultimate, manifestation. Our human society is evolving, and it's based on the theories of evolution, which is, another piece of it that I had to go study. And I don't dispute Darwin's theory of evolution, but I absolutely dispute Amitai Etzione's theory of social evolution. I don't think there's any evidence for it. I've never seen any, and I'm continually looking.
Now, Etzione, is he a founder of the idea of communitarianism? Is that one of the founding father?
Yes, he's the communitarian guru. They call him the everything expert.
Tell us what his sociology evolution is, or do you have? Tell us basically where what he believes in and how you would differ so much with his view.
Well, he's an interesting fellow. I don't know if I could even say what he believes in exactly, because he transforms himself. They reinvent themselves. They can go from being a casual eugenicist to caring all about people very easily. They're flip-flop. His background, his philosophical training was under a man called Martin Buber in the 1950s. He was teaching in Israel, the new state of Israel, and Etzione was one of his students. At the same time that Etzione was studying Buber's I versus thou theory, he was also studying Kabbalah under another rabbi there. So it sounds like the theory of community comes from ancient Judaic traditional regulations for the communities that were in captivity in Egypt. How crazy is that? So anyway, there's a lot of history involved. Etzione says that it's based in the Greeks' writings, Aristotle and Plato. It's the theory of state. It's the theory that the state is the community and that they know best, that sometimes sacrifices have to be made for the common good. It's that whole ideology. And I know he believes that because he says that. But what his actual religion would be or his politics would be, he's totally just communitarian.
Now today, where is he located? Where does he operate out of?
He's the professor at George Washington University at the Institute for Communitarian Policy Studies, and he travels frequently. He lectures all over the world, and his books are, they were on all the desks of the Seattle politicians and the agency people that were involved in the pilot test that I was in Seattle in '99. That's how I learned about him, because they quoted him continuously. And now he's being quoted daily in the Pentagon briefings. So his influence extends a lot further than probably even I know. And what's amazing to me is that his name is never included in any of the lists of the foreign advisors in the Obama administration or the Bush administration. He's been in the White House since 1979, in and out. I don't think Reagan liked him that much, and that makes Reagan fans happy, you know. But yeah, this guy's been around. He's a major player in D.C. I've been told by Elizabeth Ridenour at the Bible Curriculum Project down on the South. You might be familiar with her. Very nice woman, but she warned me that her friends told her when she started looking into the communitarian networks, how they took over the Bible curriculum studies programs. She warned me that her friends told her that Etzioni was one of the most dangerous men in D.C. and that I should back off.
Right. You say that in this dynamic, is it called the third way? Is that another description of the major, the broad view that we're talking about here? How does that factor into communitarianism, the third way?
Yes. Yeah, they called it the third way when it came into under Clinton, Blair, and Schroeder, the German prime minister or whatever he was, chancellor. Can't remember, but anyway, they introduced it in the 90s as the third way, and it was out there for a while. There was quite a few people writing about it, and then it just died away. So I think the idea is coming back again. I've seen it being referred to more. Etzioni lectures with what's called the third sector, so they may have changed it from third way to third sector, but I'm not sure. I haven't spent enough time on that. But yeah, the third way is also, if you go to the ACL, our logo is a painting by a Belgian named Jan Thunik, who donated that painting as our logo a 3 years ago, I think 2005 maybe. Anyway, and it means, it's German, the terms that describe it in German is Die neue Mitte ist eine neue Mitte, which they translated to the third way is no way. So the Europeans that understand the third way and are opposed to it, they're out there, and they've been there for a while. It just doesn't seem to be in the United States that people are really paying attention to any of these terms. They just count them as, yeah, I heard about that a few years ago. It didn't make it, you know. And so, yeah, I read a lot about the third way.
I've quizzed a few of these students since I've been talking to them before I came down here, and not one person had ever heard the word communitarianism. Not one student that I talked to. So they're devoid of really an insight into what this is all about at this time, even though they might, like you're saying earlier, they may be caught up in these dynamics, but they don't really know exactly what they are.
No, and then at some universities, it's out there, like the University of Delaware has what's called the Communitarian Residence Life Movement. And there's other colleges, I've linked to many that have studied it. My information, my manifesto actually was introduced into a quality of life seminar at Vassar College 2 years ago. It's been. They had Etzioni's texts were introduced. He wrote the Road to a Good Society. He wrote the spirit of community. He pretty much has laid out in all his books all the formats for changing the world the way Obama sees it. And they are being taught his name. They are being given his text in these college courses, but they're not being asked to critically address it.
I see.
If they're learning it, they're being taught that this is the future and that this is really good information. So I was kind of surprised that I was introduced at all into that class. But, of course, no responses to my manifesto. In fact, nothing. I had a little flurry on my blog for about a week, and then they never came back. So I never know what the students think when they actually spend the time looking at our work.
Right. You know, it would. I think it would be very, very productive. And this is just an idea off the top of my head. If Texas A&M students started looking into some of these things, because what they have here at A&M is a long tradition of patriotism and military service to this country. Very loyal Americans and many Texans. And one of the very, you could say it has become sacred here at Texas A&M. It's called Silver Taps. And whenever they lose a former, member of the school, you know what I mean, a former student in combat or whatever, they go out and have a special ceremony in the Silver Taps area here at Texas A&M. In the Battalion newspaper that I read today, there was an article about the protest. They are mobilizing a protest against President Obama tomorrow here at Texas A&M. And what they're...
Hold on.
What's that?
I was missing parts of what you were saying. There's a protest against honoring former students that died in service to the country?
No. Former students that have died, there's a special ceremony called Silver Taps. Okay? And they go out at 10 o'clock, and it's a solemn ceremony. They say their name, and they play taps to that person. So it's an honor. It's honoring Texas A&M students that have died for their country, sacrificed they all for their country.
George, is there somewhere I can call you back and get a better connection?
Why don't you call me back then? Let's see. I'll just give you the number over the air. It's 512-772-4564.
Okay.
Okay.
See, I couldn't even hear that. I couldn't even hear that number.
Okay. Well, let me just drop this line right now, and I'll call you right back. How's that sound? Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'm sorry for your.
I'll call you right back. We'll reestablish a better line. Thank you. Bye bye.
Okay. On that end, so I'm hanging up. Hello? Hello?
We're experiencing a little problem here. We'll be right back with our viewers.
Hello?
Yeah, Nikki, we're back on the air. Okay, is this better?
Much better, George. Thank you.
Oh, okay, fine. Thank you, Nikki. Thank you for bearing with us here. So, no, what they have is Silver Taps, and it's a special ceremony at 10 o'clock. They play taps to a person that has died for their country that is ex-A&M student. Okay?
Okay.
But also down here, the Battalion newspaper had an article today about they have a big protest against Obama. Okay? And people are calling me
Okay.
while I'm live on the air right now on my cell phone anyway. So they have the Battalion newspaper came out very strongly against the visit. President Obama is visiting A&M tomorrow. That's why we're here. And,
Right.
And they're doing special awards from the Points of Light Foundation, which is a Bush foundation, to people that have community service to their fellow man. Okay. Now, the students down here are raising holy hell for even Obama being invited here, much less his physical and political proclivities and policies and so forth. Okay. And that's really why we came down here, because the Texas A&M Aggies are known for their patriotism and their militant their military trainings at some of the finest in the world. Some of the finest military men that have served in the different branches of our service are graduates of Texas A&M. And we consider it a very, very fine school here at Texas A&M, and a very fine Texas school. So that's really what's going on down here, and we're here to report. Tomorrow I'll go in and listen to President Obama's speech. Very respectfully, we'll listen to that speech. We're speaking with you tonight to bring us up on communitarianism and what community service really is all about, and this new AmeriCorps and all this other stuff that President Obama is pushing and trying to promote.
Well, you need to look no further than the communitarian platform. If you printed up copies of that and passed them out, it would do more to awaken the students to the philosophy that Obama practices than anything else you have. Anything that I say can be easily discounted. I'm nobody. I'm a puny American nobody. All I was born here, lived on post my whole life, you know, and, you know, I consider myself an American. And these are foreign programs, these are foreign ideas. So, you know, my patriotism, you know, was mixed up with a lot of the 70s stuff. I was a feminist, I was a libertarian, I supported the Sandinistas in the Nicaraguan Revolution in the 70s. I was completely unaware of the Democratic Khmer Rouge, but you know, I was pretty mixed up about a lot of the new ideologies. Pieces of them made sense to me, so I tried to embrace those pieces, and what I ended up being was just, I checked out. I didn't even vote after a while, you know, and I couldn't understand any of the politics that I was being asked to participate in. And I still kind of feel that way, you know, except for I've rejected all of the ideologies that I was taught, and the only thing that I will cling to, probably until the day I die, you know, is, you know, that my dad told me my whole life that we may not have much, because I'm poor white trash, okay? But we made sure that everybody else could keep what they have. And the pride that my dad felt for the work that he did and the sacrifices that we made as a family and the way that things just tore us apart in the end, you know, that whole piece of my life, I can't take it out. It's in my heart. I hear taps, I cry. I see the flag and my hand goes straight to my heart. Now, have I learned a lot about our system that makes me sick? Yes, I have. But not our people, and not the people that, you know, that I know today, that I'm around out here where I live in very rural Alaska, you know, and a lot of them don't know anything about communitarianism either, and I don't spend my time trying to teach people that I know what I study and what I write. I let people just find my work, George. You know, it's just too devastating with growing up believing one thing and find out that it was a complete lie. And Obama's programs, and Obama's entire agenda was written by Amitai Etzioni.
That's why we're here at A&M.
There's nothing that guy's doing that's original.
Well, now you know why we're here at A&M, and we're standing up with the Texas Aggies and the Texas students here and protesting Bush.
I like that.
We're protesting President Obama's visit here. because he stands adamantly against what we as Aggies or the Aggies here and what Texans stand for and what you stand for. He's adamantly and diametrically opposed to the American system of individual rights, natural law, and natural rights. And we stand firmly in favor of all of those.
Well, if you don't stand firmly on that, George, what do you have? There's nothing left.
I agree.
To
I
me,
agree.
It's like, our back is, as Americans, our backs are up against the wall right now. And even though I don't like the whole protest ideology, okay, it plays into their dialectics so perfectly.
I know.
We've got to think our way out of this in a different level.
Now,
I don't know what that is.
Now, what's interesting about this particular protest that's happening tomorrow here on the campus of Texas A&M is that there are two organizations that and other ones that are coming in from all over the state. There's Tea Party people coming in from all over the state. There's young conservatives here based at Texas A&M, and also young Republicans. We have one that we're going to interview tonight after we end our interview with you at starting about 9. So we have some people here that need the information that we're bringing them right now, real time, live on liveonlocation.tv. That's why we came down here, because we care about the Aggies, we care about you, the Americans, and also the world. I mean, really, your work is not just for Americans, it's for everyone in the world, is it not?
Oh, absolutely. Atsioni says that nationalism needs to be ended, that it has outgrown its purpose. While it maybe served a purpose at one time or another for all these nations that declared independence from empires, now suddenly nationalism is a terrorist type of thinking that has no place in the international dialogue. I mean, these are the people that think that peace means disarmament to them. They say that the Second Amendment was written with a communitarian clause that calls for a community militia as opposed to individual gunslingers.
Right.
If you go through the communitarian platform, you'll see all of the things that attack us as a nation and every nation in the world, because even as much as our reputation as a country has gone really downhill in the last few decades, okay, people still look to us as our principles. That what individual liberty really means, and why so many people still want to immigrate to America. Why do we have the immigration problem that we have? Because people don't want to come here? No. And are they all necessarily coming here for welfare? No. They come here because they can open a business and keep their profit.
Yes, and that means private property rights. And that's very important.
Yes, it does. And they understand it better.
Yes.
Some of my best supporters in Seattle, when I started fighting the communitarians in 1999, were the Asian community, Beacon Hill, the people that came from Africa and all these other places that had little businesses in their neighborhoods. Like this one Cambodian dressmaker that was told to move his business because they were putting in light link rail, and they were going to help him move. And he said, all my customers are here and they don't have cars. Why would I move?
Right.
He stood up to them, Little people like that have people that have lived under oppressive regimes, totalitarian regimes, especially older people, that have really gone through it, that when they get here, they're so relieved. And, and for me, it was awful. It was like I'm looking at them going, guess what? The same people that ran you out of Cambodia or ran you out of Iran or wherever you came from are here now.
Right.
And we're going to have to start fighting.
A few weeks ago, I was, Nikki, I was up at Valley Forge at a Ron Paul regional conference. And Judge Andrew Napolitano was up speaking, okay? And there was a family right in front of me that had come in. The old man was in a wheelchair. There was 4 or 5 family members. They were all Italian also. Napolitano is Italian. And I thought to myself, even Italians love liberty. You know what I mean? Because they're not Italians here, they're Americans. See what I mean? But it doesn't matter what they are. Everyone in the world loves liberty. And that was so poignant to me, is they're here because of opportunity, of freedom and liberty, just like you just pointed out, to earn a living, to make a business, to establish a business, and to do something and to serve their, their fellow, community and services, business services.
Right. What they've done is they've taken the concept of, hard work pays off, and twisted it around to mean that hard work means you're greedy.
Yes, exactly.
So
if you're out there accumulating,
listen to that.
Yeah, right. So if you're out there accumulating anything, then you're greedy and you're selfish, right? Yeah.
Yes, and you need to learn how to share.
Yeah, and you need to think about community rights and your individual rights and freedoms. No, you have to throw those away and merge in to this community rights and community subjugation to the tyranny of the majority, right?
Yes, because they're very clear in the communitarian platform. National and local service and volunteerism are 3 separate programs that they're going to be introducing. So if you think you're going to get out of national or local service by being a volunteer, think again. There's more than one program here. Amitai Etzioni was the driving force behind AmeriCorps. It is his principles and his theories that are behind every new program that's going to teach the community their new responsibilities for global citizenship. And one of our responsibilities as global citizens is to share with those who don't have, which we already do. And this is the part that just makes me mad, is Americans on the record are the most generous nation on the planet. If there's a disaster somewhere, we send money, we send goods and supplies, and we send people everywhere. So why did the communitarians say that we need to learn how to be more generous? It's insane.
Is there a hatred for America here that's underlying some of this philosophy?
No, I think it's hate for human beings.
You think they consider the human being an animal? Is that right?
Well, I know that they say in their writings way more often than I had expected about the illiterate masses and how we're just I don't know if it's really
Is there
animals.
elitism? Is an arrogance of elitism there? Is that what you're seeing in some of the writings?
Yes. Yes, they're very superior to us. They're born this way. And they've created several religions around it so that the people who believe in those religions think that they're part of that chosen special group. They've created monarchies around it so people who are born into that family think that they're, born better. I almost wrote an article one time called Born Better,
Oh, okay.
And if you're not in that group, you can never get in that group. You can join every Masonic organization. You can join all the churches. You can join the Community Development League. You can be part of it all, but you will never be them.
I see.
Period.
So this is a really creme de la creme, yeah.
Is
okay.
the opposite of that. Yes, we here, I don't care what your last name is. Are you going to show up for work tomorrow and do your job? That's what we care about.
Well, I have some friends back in Austin, and their name is Peroni, and I love them like brothers. And their grandfather's will was drawn up by my father, who was an attorney there. So, and their name didn't mean anything to me.
We're all mixed.
They're my brothers,
Right. We're a predominantly white culture. That, we're Western European immigration was mostly white people at the time, and my work's been picked up by the nationalists and the Stormfront people. Actually, call me an obvious Jewish shill, so I don't appeal to the white nationalists very much, but my work does.
I
Me as a
see.
person,
So they
don't
try to
like
pick
me.
up some pieces, bits and pieces, and use that for their own purposes, right? I see.
Yeah, well, our mission statement at the ACL is very short. It's only a few lines, and mainly number one is we heed the warning of General Washington in his farewell address, who told us to ever be cautious for these type of seditious activities and people that are undermining the Constitution. It was already started in 1790. Actually, it started before. So the warnings have been there, and that's what we were following. I was like kind of hanging on to that because I had to have somebody I could hang on to in American history, and it ended up being Washington.
Right, the father.
So,
that's cool.
Right,
That's okay.
and then he was
that was good advice, wasn't it?
He was well, the man it's a complex character. These are very complex characters, these men. American history, if they actually told American history in the American history classes, they'd be packed because it's fascinating who these people really were, what motivated them. The Freemason connection, to me, is absolutely essential to understanding America. What was the connection between Lafayette and General von Steuben and Washington? They all belonged to the same lodge. And they were against the British and the Dutch. And so the economic war that we're fighting goes all the way back. If you don't know what the Hanseatic League was, then you can't even grasp the
Hanseatic
what the
League.
wars
Yeah,
in
that's
Europe were
important.
About.
Exactly. That's very important.
And why our founders said we're staying out of it.
One of the things that I've talked to over the years too, the Continental, the money, there was a money problem there too with the British. And the British finally prohibited the Continental from being used by the colonies, see, because it was prospering. The colonies separated from British hard coins of gold coins, see. So they had to prohibit the Continental, and they started shutting down the colonies' fiat money, see. And actually the fiat money prospered the colonies at that time.
Right, and trade and barter became the rule of the day. And, it's almost like right now, that's like one of the few solutions that, it would almost be impossible to make it happen. And that's where it really helps to have a lot of people who believe in a higher power or God or whatever, because this is what we need to pray on, is that people just drop out.
Yeah, have people really fallen away? Have people fallen away from God? They've fallen away, haven't they?
Well, I'm not the one to ask about that because, I don't practice any religion and I won't promote any either. But I continuously pray, and so it's it's an internal struggle, our relationship with our God. And what they've done is make it an outside struggle instead of inside.
Alexander Solzhenitsyn said the battle line between good and evil runs through the heart of man. So it's an internal thing, and I agree with you, is it not?
Well, yes, but that's their theory, too. Geez, they really went for it with Nietzsche and all the existentialism, They take it to dialectical.
But I'm saying here is that we try to focus our problems outside, and we try to externalize our problems sometimes. But if we come to a change in our own hearts, a metanoia is a religious term, a change of direction, a one of forgiveness and love for our fellow man, that can transform the whole world.
Wow, yes it can, and they would love to harness that energy. In fact, a big part of their curriculum is the New Age.
Yes.
Where it's the collective consciousness that they want.
Yes.
And they talk about that a lot in their writings. And my friend Bobby Garner is a very educated Christian man who writes about this from the Christian perspective. And I've learned so much from him and his take on the New Age portion of communitarianism. and also the Christian communitarianism, because the World Council of Churches and the National Council of Churches and the Vatican, and it sounds to me like even the Ayatollahs in Iran and the Muslims now. I mean, everyone's jumping on the whole bandwagon for this new world religion, and it's a communitarian religion. It's very pagan. Not that I'm against pagans either, okay? Because I don't really care what you practice as long as your actions do not interfere in my life or the lives of the people I love.
Well, I have settled up, on forgiveness as the most divine of all teachings myself. See, that can release us from a slavery of hating and resenting all these people. See, we can still struggle against evil, but we don't have to hate it to struggle against it.
Well, hate only hurts the person who does the hating.
Exactly.
It has no effect on the person you hate.
And when you
why would you do that?
And when you release yourself from that hatred and hating, then that's when you change the world. Because you changed yourself.
Well, I never was set out to change the world.
No, but what I'm saying here, Nikki, is when you change yourself, you change the world. You see what I mean?
Well, I know, yes, and I know that the for years.
Yeah, I think we have it all turned around. We're going on crusades, and we go out here and we struggle and so forth. But the real struggle and the battle lies within our hearts to change ourselves. See what I mean? And
right, and it's a battle. So if we have
it's the ultimate
intense battle going on inside us, everyone does.
Exactly.
Then think of the absurdity of someone else telling you what is best for you.
Right.
And that's when people ask me all the time, what should I do, Nikki? Now that I know what you've told me or what I've got from your website, what do we do now? And I say, now you need to look inside for those answers. Because if you're still asking me what to do, you haven't read what I've written. You don't understand where I'm coming from on this, because my job is not to tell anybody what to do. My job is to help give you tools so when you do something, you do it right, and you do it in a just way. Because I don't promote violence. I'm a hunter now. I own guns. I'm learning all kinds of things here. But I'm not an advocate of any kind of violence. Because the violence is on their side, and every time you play into their violence, you just perpetuate the communitarian synthesis. You help bring it to a close. And I'm not a Gandhiist either. I'm not a Buddhist, or I don't even know what that is really. I haven't spent any time studying the major religions beyond superficial, But the bottom line is they're pushing us towards conflicts and confrontations, and that's why protests kind of scare me, okay? Because that gives them the right to bring out the RoboCops and start tear gassing.
What they said in the battalion newspaper here is that they want it to be orderly and respectful of all the parties, but they do stand firmly in protesting President Obama's visit here. You should see just the feel that I have around the campus. We drove through the campus earlier this afternoon coming over to our hotel here. I had a very good feeling about these Aggie students. And they're going to stand firmly on principles that they believe in, and I believe they come down on our side, Nikki. That's really where I think they're coming from. They don't understand in detail communitarianism and all that, but I believe they're on our side to begin with. And they know deep down, instinctually, that Obama represents what they are against, and I think that's why they're protesting here tomorrow.
Whoa, I keep thinking football games and those big, huge signs that people make,
Yeah.
And I would just love to see a big sign.
Yeah.
That said communitarian in it somehow.
Oh gosh, we'll see what we can do on that. I'm going in to the speech tomorrow morning. We have to go in early, and then there's a procedure in there at the Ruddy Theater for Obama's speech. And then I'll come out after that, and we're going to cover the protest, which is happening here at Spence, in Spence Park, which is right behind the Student Center there, which is further removed from the Rudder Theater, about a block and a half. So we're going to be covering that. We're going to be speaking some students, getting their ideas and their comments on why they're there, what they're against, what they're for, and so forth. And I think that's going to be very interesting tomorrow. And there's going to be thousands of people here in this park. And they're coming in, they're Tea Party people. See, there's been a nerve that's been touched on out here. Obama has unnerved people, and he's creating a rebellion against him because he's moving too fast, and he's running towards a collective state that Americans stand firmly against. That's what's going on.
Do Americans or these Texas people that you're in contact with understand that President Bush, both Bushes, endorsed all the same programs?
Well, I'll tell you what.
They started some of these, actually.
Nikki, to give you an honest and a balanced view, let me tell you what's going on, okay? You have, right now, since Obama started his presidency, you have people that have been gradually waking up over a period of time, and there's people there that are at different points in their wakefulness, okay? And like the Tea Party are at a certain stage, and the Ron Paul people at a further more in stage. Then you've got the 9/11 Truth people. You've got the We Are Change people. You've got a lot of people at a lot of different stages of wakefulness and in what I call real enlightenment, okay? And so, but there are people that are moving in the same direction, basically. So that's basically what we have here at Texas A&M. Is that no? This is the Bush Library is here. No, people don't understand some of those other issues, but we must stand here and come up here and stand against Obama and say, hey, past regimes and past administrations have done the same thing that Obama's doing now, but in a different way. They've all supported the Federal Reserve, which is privately owned. And what is that all about to start with, to begin with? We've got to follow the money, and that's what we're doing here.
Okay, so how about this? What if it just has a big sign that says, fire Amitai Etzioni now, or something like that? Because the threat that takes Obama programs through the Bush administration all the way back to Carter is Amitai Etzioni.
Right. This broadcast tonight.
Fire him and everything he brought. Right.
Nikki, this broadcast tonight, I hope, will touch hearts and minds and begin to ignite some kind of an interest and curiosity as to what we're really talking about here. I did not come here to castigate and criticize community awards being given out tomorrow. But I came here to wake the Aggies up to what's really going on in this country, and they are on our side, basically. I know that, and that's why I came down here to have a conversation with these Texas Aggies. My father taught school here in 1922. Okay?
I wondered why
87 years ago, my father was a professor at Texas A&M. So we have a little bit of a connection. And the rest of my family helped found the University of Texas at Austin, okay? We built the tower, the main tower, some of my family. So we believe in Texas. Wow. We're proud Texans, and we're not going to have people come in here and throw us out of our own country. We just beat back the toll roads. We mobilized, and Richard Reeves up there and many other people mobilized and fought back these toll roads and this Trans-Texas corridor. We beat them back to a certain point. They're not totally closed down yet, but we've got farmers and ranchers, and those people came to Texas A&M and went to school and became veterinarians and farming ranchers and went back on their land. So this Texas A&M is an agricultural, mechanical school. It puts out some fine engineers. It puts out some fine agricultural people also, and all kinds of others.
I went to an agricultural college, too, or that wasn't anymore, but had been UMass Amherst.
Yeah.
And you're making me wish I'd have gone to Texas.
Well, I tell you what, Nick, you would fit in right well. When we drove in, there's all kinds of different research. At 5,000 acres down here is the campus, but it's divided up into different, locations and so forth. And so the Aggies have a long tradition of military service for this country, and also they're into veterinarian science and those. The landscape architect school was started by a friend of ours here from out of Michigan State.
Oh, I'd love to go there.
And yeah, the landscape architect school at Texas A&M was the second one in the country after Michigan State University. Okay, and so anyway, Texas A&M has a lot to offer. We're here to stand shoulder to shoulder with the students, both men and women. Now, it used to be where there were only all the students were in the Corps and cadets. Now we have about 45,000 students or so. And they're of all kinds. They're in all kinds of different schools and so forth. And it doubles the population of more than doubles the population of College Station and Bryan Station when they start school here. And they're all over this town today, and they're really fine people. And we want to that goes out to our friends here in Texas A&M, but also all across Texas and all across the United States. But anyway, we have a young gentleman here that we're going to bring up in just a few minutes. He's with the Young Republicans here on the campus of Texas A&M. And is there anything you want to sign off with? We've got about 2 or 3 minutes before you leave the program. And is there any points you want to make, Nikki, about communitarianism or whatever? You've got the next 2 or 3 minutes to tell us what you really feel and you want the American public to hear, much less the world audience.
Okay, well, people, I'm going to do a plug for my book. The name of it is 2020, Our Common Destiny. It's 126 pages, and I condensed all of the main things at the Anti-Communitarian League website into this book for my daughter, really. She's been my right-hand person this whole time since she was 14 years old. And she wanted just a step-by-step, simple introduction to communitarianism and how it affects us. And my first draft was 700 pages. She threw it out. We started over. And now the book is it's an easy couple-hour read for most readers. There's a lot of new terms in it, but that's to be expected. But for all the people that are asking me all the time to simplify it, I did. And I live in a yurt without running water. I have no plumbing, and I heat with wood in Alaska year-round. And I live off the sales from this book now, which means I don't eat all the time. So if anybody's really interested in communitarianism, I suggest or recommend, or however you do that. I'm not very much at marketing, but the book is there. It's available. We've got copies again. And I recommend it. Everyone who's ever read it so far has said that they got so much out of it and thanked me for it. So I'm not selling something that's, useless. So anyway, and thanks for having me, George, and go Texas.
Hey, Nikki, we're sorry we had that bad, audio connection earlier, but we certainly do appreciate your work and your dedication. And really, your community service is #1 in my book, okay? Because it really hits at the heart of the real problem and the heart of the beast. But thank you very much, Nikki. We're going to go here to about a minute of silence and bring on our next guest, and then we'll be back up. We're going to let the video continue to roll with me sitting at our production table here in College Station, USA, Texas country. Thank you very much, Nikki, for being with us. Yeehaw! Thank you, babe. Bye-bye. Good night. Good night. Bye-bye. This is George Butler with LiveOnLocation.tv. I'm sitting with a gentleman here. He's a student. What is your name, John?
Hi, my name is John Kettler. And I am the activities director for the Texas A&M College Republicans.
Okay, what's going on down here? It's exciting. I read an article in the Battalion today, and it seemed to indicate that there were two main groups. There was the young conservatives and the young Republicans, and you're a part
The
of
college Republicans.
Okay, young
Yes, sir.
college Republicans. Tell us, you're a member of that group. Tell us what that is all about and what some of your goals and activities have been.
Well, essentially, our club is separated into three main focuses. We focus on a philosophical element, that is education, learning more about the Republican Party, how to further and advance goals, including but not limited to conservatism, as well as socializing. So we are a social group. We have functions where we just meet, talk, and do what we love to do. And also we are an activist group, and that's what we're planning on doing tomorrow. We are going to peacefully protest the policies of President Barack Obama.
You know what I saw, the article I read in the Battalion seemed to indicate that y'all are not down here to do any violence. You're going to respectfully, I think that was one of the key words that I noticed in the article. You're going to respectfully stand up and protest what his visit here is, that, and his policies and politics. Is that right?
Oh, definitely. Now, there has been a concern lately, especially on our campus, about respecting not only the president but the views of other people, and we understand that there's a little bit of nervousness right now. There's a little bit of anxiety about the president of the United States coming to our campus and us looking like a reasonable, intelligent group of young people. And what we need to do essentially tomorrow is just get that point across. We need to get across that we are not protesting the award that Barack Obama is receiving from President Bush, former President Bush, just that we're against some of his policies, and we want to move a little bit further to the right than what we have right now.
So tomorrow it's a community awards or community activities or actives, the active people in the community field, and so you're not protesting that at all. In fact, you applaud some of the community activism to help other people. You're not against that at all, right?
Absolutely not. At Texas A&M, we're one of the biggest campuses involved with community service,
Right.
including but not limited to some major things like the big event we put on every year where everybody gets in little groups, including the Texas A&M College Republicans, and does something good for our community. For example, last semester we went and we actually helped a woman plant a vegetable garden. So we at Texas A&M care deeply about community service, so we would never ever think to protest anything of the sort. We're just out there to get our points across, get it across that we care about conservatism and we want to avoid some of the policies that we're extremely worried about right now, including some stances on illegal immigration and healthcare right now. So
Okay, let's talk about health care. What kind of problems do you see in what Obama wants to do, and what some of the students, and what's your view on that right now? Where do you differ, and where do you agree with him on his health care bill? Do you think we need this right now? We need this health care bill.
well, I can go ahead and speak for myself on certain things, not necessarily the entire club, but personally I feel that it's being rushed right now. Many of the things are being rushed, even though recently Barack Obama himself had admitted in New Orleans, actually earlier today, that this is a complicated issue. We have many complicated issues in our country, yet this is all being rushed? Why is it being rushed? That is something that deeply troubles me, and I think that we need to take things more gradually. Healthcare is a problem in the country, yet at the same time, we can't rush things, or else things may end up a lot worse than we would want them to be otherwise.
Yeah, I think you make some very important points there. I've always come down, how about preventative? You know what I mean? How about prevention and nutrition and alternative, medicine?
I know exactly what you mean.
I mean, within the young people, and you're in your 20s, I'm sure, or your late teens, what are there some ideas that are coming to the fore there about alternative medicine, nutrition? I think the young people are into health things and healthful ways to a large extent. I know there's a lot of partying going on, right, at any college or university, right? And we were driving down, and there were clubs and different things, you know. But that's always the case with young people, and I did the same thing. But are we not leaving out the preventative benefits or preventative measures that could cut down on this total sick or ill, you know, population?
Well, the interesting thing is that many of the diseases that people have nowadays aren't necessarily communicable so much as related to directly how you handle yourself and how you live your life. So that's probably where it begins. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not advocating the exaggerated democratic viewpoint of don't get sick.
Yeah, okay.
But at the same time, there are a lot of things that we as individuals can do for our health to avoid having to clog the system with our problems, and maybe we can actually get some progress done on an individual level so that when we get to the collective level, there's far less to actually deal with.
I see people all the time.
Education's an important
I
thing.
see
as far
people
as
all the
health
time
goes.
that are having trouble with their ankles and their knees and their legs, and they're like 300 or 400 pound people. And so there is a personal responsibility there. Is that a conservative view then, being personally responsible for your own actions and taking care and being more self-reliant than, say, some liberal view? But now, here's the point that I wanted to make before we get too involved in our discussion this evening is, you know, there's a paradigm that's been created here, left and right, Democrat and Republican. Do y'all like to reach across the aisle and say, let's get some common things solved here? Do you see any of that happening here on campus or not?
Well, first let me go back to the point you were making about conservative and liberal.
Oh, okay.
I think that sometimes those words are thrown around pretty easily
Yes.
with regard to personal responsibility, you can be classically liberal. You can be a classical liberal,
yes.
yet you can still be all for freedom, personal responsibility, and care. Yet, when it comes to the progressive liberal camp, it's so much more related to us, and that isn't necessarily a bad thing in terms of the ideal of it, but when it comes to the reality, it tends to end up a little bit worse than we'd like it to. But could you please restate the second question you had for me?
Which one was it now? I'm trying to think. Okay. The paradigm, I think I remember it now. There's been it looks like it's purposely been created. It's a dialectic conflict that's been created in a way to keep us at each other's throats, in a way. To keep us divided, to keep us in a hate-filled or a resentment type of mode where we can't get anywhere.
I remember now. So are we concerned about reaching out across the aisle?
Yes.
Now, the main thing about being college Republicans is that we recognize that our party is made up of a diverse collection of viewpoints. We have different religions in our club. We have different stances on healthcare. We have different stances on the president and the past presidents. We vote differently. We think differently. And so we recognize that extends not only into our own party, but across the aisle. And so, yes, I would agree that we are interested, especially right now, with the Senate and the House in such a bad position, that our politicians need to recognize that in a practical, real-world environment, they need to reach across the aisle. Now, should they sacrifice their views and compromise their personal ideology? No, but they need to recognize that in a world of idealism and realism, there's a balance.
Yeah, I mean, we can easily fall victim to an idealistic viewpoint, but when you get out there and you start lobbying for laws and you get up to Washington, D.C., within the Beltway, there's a lot of money involved. There's a lot of big interest, and a lot of times those big interests just override anything that's the right thing to do.
And I think,
what do you think about that? The money now. One question I wanted to sort of ask y'all was ask you, John, is that are y'all into any money issues like in the Fed or the knowledge about the Fed? Are any of your people getting into some of those issues, and what do they say about the Fed right now?
well, in our club right now, we do have people very interested in the economy, very interested especially in the national deficit, and I can speak for many of our members when it comes to being upset with the way things are headed. We're very concerned about the national deficit, the inflation of our dollar, and just generally making sure that our economy stays stable.
Okay.
Now, when it comes to the when it comes to the issues of, say, lobbyists going to Congress and attempting to make things go their way and try to veer our politicians and our representatives and senators away from representing us, we need to demand that this country is a rule of law, has standards, and will not compromise to special interests when the one thing that is supposed to be collective, that is our government's existence in the first place, it needs to recognize that it works for all of us. It works for us, the people, and not us, the special interests and the private segments of society.
Do y'all have any knowledge or any kind of preview or any kind of an idea of the number of people that might be here tomorrow, or not?
Well, we are right now. We can't predict anything for sure, but we're hoping to have anywhere from 5,000 to 10,000. Now, I say hoping because that's exactly what we're doing. We're hoping that we see that much. Now, will we see? Maybe, maybe not. We may even see more, but at the same time, we're expecting a good crowd. I don't know if it's going to be that many people, but we will have a strong attendance.
Do you think the location there at the Spence was a good location for the demonstration, or what?
Well, I live on campus, so I know kind of the general area, and I'd say that it isn't as close as I'd like to be, but considering the world and the way it works...
Isn't there an area that's diagonally across from the Rudder Theater that would be more accessible to the front of that from a viewpoint, or not?
I'm sorry, I can't say I know
okay.
As far as that goes. However, we do have a very nice spot not too far away from Rudder the Rudder Auditorium where he'll be speaking.
Now, okay, it's called Rudder Tower, and then
Rudder Tower, and then
Rudder Theater. Is that okay? I see.
And so
what does the tower mean? Is that the higher, the multi-story part of the complex there? The tower part.
Now, the nice thing about where we are is, even though it is a little bit further than I'd like to be, but at the same time, it's in a nice location. It's in a park, actually, on campus, Spence Park, that is not far away from there at all. So we will have a great place for anybody who's interested in, quote, visiting, unquote, to come and, well, protest, because they're venues for people to come to and go to that will just be related to airing the speech or being pro-Obama's policies.
Right now, okay, since Obama is taken office and so forth, do you feel, are you upset, are you frightened about the way we're headed right now? And it's more than just health care or something. Are there other overriding fears that many of your fellow students are expressing, that you really think the country is headed in the wrong direction?
Well, upset, yes. Frightened, I wouldn't necessarily say so, because many of us idolize Ronald Reagan and his policies of the 80s. However, we also recognize that our best days are ahead of us, and we can always surpass what was obtained in the Reagan era. However, there are some things that concern our members every day about President Obama and his policies. We're hoping that it gets a little bit further away from the progressive and more into the conservative. So,
when you say progressive, what do you mean by that exactly?
In general, what I mean about the progressive movement is not necessarily liberal, but by progressive I mean essentially heading into the what's known as kind of a more stereotypical leftist agenda. Not only stereotypical leftist, but further.
Would you call the person more of a statist or something like that? They believe more in government, and you would think a conservative would be leaving less government interference in their lives and in their activities?
Well, it depends on what area you are conservative in, but I'd say that secular progressivists definitely feel that because they have no higher authority to reach to. Now, I'm not saying anything against secularism in general because I personally am an agnostic. However, with many in the secular progressivist movement, you see kind of an urge towards the state and the state being the ultimate authority when at the very least, or actually the very most, it should be the penultimate authority because who does it come back to? The people.
Okay, you make a very important point. We had earlier, the first hour, Nikki Rapana out of Alaska, and she is an authority in the area of communitarianism. And communitarianism, one of their basic ideas is that community rights are superior to individual rights. What would you say to that? She's not an advocate of communitarianism. She's actually a critic of that idea, and has written very, very, very many books and articles in criticism of communitarianism itself. What would you say? Do you see that happening in different ways out here? That everybody is saying, oh, the community is more important than the individual rights? Or you see, like Agenda 21, or I don't know if you're familiar with that or not, but some people are saying these UN types of agendas and stuff are finding their way down to the local level through zoning ordinances and building permits and so forth. What do you think? What do you see?
Well, I am not as educated about communitarianism as I'd like to be, so I'd like to respectfully skip that question. Oh,
okay. We came here to bring that idea to the A&M students, and I think it would open up a wealth of information that many conservatives would find very fruitful, because when what they say and what Nikki Rapana says, and we had programs that go back to George Mason University back a year ago, and there you had the battle between the Federalists and Anti-Federalists and things like this, and the Anti-Federalists actually demanded and pressured the rest of the states to amend the Constitution with a Bill of Rights. Without the now, what I see going on, John, in many of our community textbooks, little mention is made of the Anti-Federalists. And they're stressing the Federalists.
I agree with you there. When actually the way that our Constitution developed and grew into what it is directly due to the debate between Publius and Brutus.
Between what now?
Between Publius and Brutus, where we had our main founding fathers argue for federalism, and then we had Brutus argue against it, particularly related to the separation of powers and concerns related to specific things such as how powerful the Supreme Court may be.
Yeah, but one of the main ideas that many of our founding fathers were schooled in, and this is rarely ever mentioned in some of these textbooks at these community colleges too, is the natural law. And from the natural law springs forth natural rights. And one of the main natural rights is to defend oneself and the right to keep and bear arms. See, and so what I see that developed is a body of positive law versus natural law or constitutional law. And some of the ideas are like the Constitution is a living, breathing document that should change. And I think that comes from that left side. That that is the living, breathing Constitution. Yes. And to me, a living, breathing Constitution can die. And to me,
Jonah Goldberg said something really great in an article called "It's Alive," essentially where he was projecting what Phil Donahue or the types like that would say. Where, would you like a dead Constitution? And then he just kind of sarcastically responded, "Yes, I would."
Yeah. And because then that's set in stone, so to speak. And that's really where I come about. The original intent of the Constitution, if you start breathing life into it, then it should change. And that's where many of the people are changing the Constitution.
Now, this may sound a little weird, but...
See what I mean? And it's not for the good of this country because it detracts from the Republican, Bill of Rights types of protections. That's what I see going on.
Now, this may sound a little weird, but when I read that article,
Yeah.
The weirdest thing dawned upon me when you see the conflict between a living, breathing constitution and a dead constitution, where you have the living constitution, which is supposed to be bent to the will of whoever is in power at the time and the people during that time, and then you have the dead constitution, where it's stagnant. It's stagnant in the sense that it is immune to anything except amendment. Now, I recognize that with judicial review, there is going to be a little bit of differentiation between how Judge A rules and Judge B rules. So you won't, in any imperfect world, have everyone ruling strictly by the rule of law. So one thing that dawned upon me was, in the world that we have right now, perhaps the most realistic thing that we can reach to is a zombie constitution. A zombie constitution in the sense that it is seeming as if it's living and breathing, but in reality, it's undead. It has no real substantive life to it. So even though it is something that is changing for the people during different times, it should be changing by legitimate means and not these backhanded.
Yeah, sometimes
what happens.
I know we're talking in generalities.
Mm-hmm.
We're using dead, alive, and things like that. But what I see, the point I'm trying to make here is that if you there's this social and moral relativist view, okay, they are supporting this living, breathing, changing constitution, and then there's this other side that I subscribe to and that I'm a part of, that believes that we should get back or stay with the as well as possible the original intent, because with the original intent, in my opinion, was a strong supportive of the natural law and the natural rights concepts, and that's my own opinion, you know, and so that's really what I support, and I see a strong assault on those natural law and natural rights views and positions.
Such as the right to self-defense, like you were mentioning
I think
earlier.
so. I think so, and I think this university, if anything, has fought and has sacrificed many former students. My father taught school here in 1922, 87 years ago. So we're not really, you know, ignorant of Texas A&M, and we helped found the university in Austin after this was founded. Actually, A&M is older than UT at Austin. So we're not immune from the Texas university systems as such. We've supported the Aggies, and we've had all those over the years, right? But many of my friends, like in Austin, I've got one restaurant that I go to, they're all Aggies, so I can't say too much.
So you've got a little bit of that.
You know, they'll jump on me, you know. And one of the insights my dad gave us was when he taught school down here, they gave him a paddle.
Really now?
Yeah, and he said the professors paddled the cadets back then, but he said he couldn't find it in his heart to paddle an Aggie because he was a UTT sip. He said he just never did that, you know, and so we all used to laugh about that, you know. But my father, because the highway system was not well developed in 1922, he used to ride the train too, College Station, say, to school. You know, he would come home on weekends and go back on holidays.
Back when there was a lot more station in the College Station.
Yeah, right. But like on holidays at Christmas or whatever, when there was a number of days that you could ride a train and then come back, you know, well, then he would come back to Texas A&M, and he left me. I know you're not into to religion that much.
Don't get me wrong. I study religion as much as I can.
Oh, okay.
So,
but my father left me some different things. But the greatest thing, or the greatest item that I believe that he ever left me, was a New Testament that he received when he was 19. When 1913, he was 13 years old, and so that to me is my prize inheritance. You know what I mean? And so I went through there one time, and I saw the different, you know, scriptures and things that he underlined. And so, to me, that meant a lot to me.
And you got a chance to kind of see more about your father, was it?
I lost my father when I was about 19. I was in the Army and stuff. But anyway, so I never knew him as an adult that long. You know what I mean?
But you got a chance to learn a lot more about him.
Yeah, so this was a little insight, and he loved Texas A&M too. And my uncle's something else. He played football for Texas A&M and UT.
Wow, really? When
back
did he play?
Back then, I've forgotten the position, but he had letter sweaters for both schools. They gave letter sweaters out then. It wasn't coats. It was, and so he lived down on East 2nd Street in Austin. And if the Aggies were lined up there on band day, you know,
so I wonder,
he would get his Aggie sweater on, and if the UT band was out there, he'd go in and put on his UT.
So as an alumnus from both schools, I wonder what he was going to do whenever they had their shootout. Was he going to wear maroon and orange?
This was the early beginnings of football at both schools in the late 1800s, pre-1900. So so our families, and then my great-great-grandfather founded the School of Medicine at Galveston. Okay.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
His name was Greensville Dowell. So that's another little family thing. So anyway, we love the state, and we've come down here because we want to join in with you and your fellow students in protesting the way this country's headed under this new administration.
Exactly. And what we're hoping from this protest is that we can, in addition to getting our various points across, just get the general idea across that we're not insane. Definitely that.
Okay.
Definitely we're not
we
insane.
We gave him a quiz before we brought him on, right?
Mm-hmm.
My assistant Dan over here ran through a psychological test, right? But anyway.
Oh, exactly. But let's see. Generally, what we care about is respectfully communicating to the president our concerns, and we hope that he listens to us. We hope that he listens to us, and we are hoping for the best from this event.
Right. Well, John, we certainly appreciate having you with us this evening. Is there anything else that you wanted to add to the conversation, or?
Well, let's see. I guess just about the last thing I'd like to plug is for any younger people who are listening to this program, if you're still in high school and get accepted to A&M, be sure to look up the Texas A&M College Republicans. We're a great group, and we'd love to have you.
Okay, well, thank you very much for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
And we're going to go down here for 1 minute of silence. We're going to usher John off the program. Thank you very much, John, for being with us.
You're welcome.
We appreciate it. Okay, thank you, and we'll be out there with you tomorrow.
All right.
And on the protest line. Thank you. And we'll be interviewing many other students, too. Thank you very much. This is George Butler returning to the program. We just had a fine young man there from the young Republicans testify as to his view. So down here in Texas A&M, where there's going to be tomorrow, there's going to be a protest. And that protest is being organized by not only the young conservatives of Texas A&M, but the young Republicans of here at Texas A&M. And so we're just trying to give them some exposure here. This is a little rough on the production here. I know we couldn't get on the campus that well. We were trying to communicate with different individuals. We just couldn't get lined up to be on the campus tonight. We wanted to have a little bit more room, so we're broadcasting here on an impromptu basis from our hotel room at the Ramada Inn at Texas Avenue. And so it's been a little bit tough there doing that. But in closing, I would just like to summarize some of the points and some of the different views that were expressed tonight. And basically, what's going on at this campus tomorrow is that tomorrow afternoon, President Barack Obama is going to visit here, and he was invited by the Points of Light Foundation, which is a former President Bush foundation, and it has to do with community service. And certainly we don't disagree with that at all. Our first hour, our guest was Nikki Rapana out of Alaska. She is an authority on communitarianism, and communitarianism, in her view and her work and articles, and she's written books on this subject, has to do with community rights being superior to individual rights. Well, that flies in the face of Jeffersonian and natural law and natural rights and so forth. And she's of the opinion that this is a end run around our Constitution. It's a collective end run around our Constitution. And she's hell-bent on exposing this and alerting the American public on the dangers of that. Later, when we were interviewing this student, he's expressed concerns about some of the health problems, the health bills, and also he had a very balanced view. And what really impressed me, I would say, is that the students down here are conservative overall. There's a mixture, of course, of Democrats and Republicans, and but I would say that the Texans as a group in whole are very, very conservative, and as a result, you're going to be encountering very, very conservative politics tomorrow. And I believe that President Obama, he represents a very collective extreme left. That's about the best way to portray it and describe it. And I just don't think the American public want that overall. I think there's great rebellion out there that's beginning, and I think his policies are wrong, and I think they're wrong for this country and wrong for America. He's being manipulated, I feel, by a global money system, and we're bringing on through these problems of the banking sector. They're bringing about a global system of money and banking, and I don't think that's going to be helpful for people here at Texas A&M or anywhere else in the country. I think we're going to be dictated to by people out of the UN or Europe or European Union or whatever. And I think we're going to lose our autonomy, and I think we're going to lose our rights and freedoms to a large extent. So I do not support his policies, period. I came down here from Austin to support and stand shoulder to shoulder with the Texas Aggies that have a long tradition of sacrificing many good Americans in many conflicts. I believe personally that some of these conflicts today, that we shouldn't be entangled in some of these conflicts. I basically am a Ron Paul supporter, and I closely, am in touch with him and his staff and his policies and the Campaign for Liberty. So my message out there to all the Ron Paul followers and supporters is that, hey, let's stand up against this stuff. And he asked me, Nikki Rapana asked me a question during the first hour about the different groups and so forth. And what I see is the different groups are evolving and learning and awakening at different rates. And I just believe that you're going to find, like the Tea Party. Okay, let's just talk about the different groups, okay? And this might clear up some things. You've got Glenn Beck out there hammering away, and you've got Rush Limbaugh years ago. When Rush Limbaugh first started broadcasting 10, 15 years, whenever he first started, it was a fresh breeze. I believe today he's very divisive. Michael Savage and some of those other people. I think we need to reach across the aisle a little bit more. And Glenn Beck is the same way on television. I think he can be very divisive. But he has awakened people, and he's touched a nerve, and this health program of Obama's is touching nerves. And people are waking up and they're saying, hey, I don't want more and more bigger and bigger government. I want less government interference. And I want some kind of a health plan. I want a real health plan. I don't want an AMA-dominated pharmaceutical solution with us, reaching into our pockets and paying billions for all these ill people, where we should start thinking about prevention. We should be on the prevention side, the alternative medicine side. And we've had people that I've lost, and I want to just say I want to reach out to Matthew Brown up in Missouri and his daughters and Charlotte Brown, and I'm sympathetic for their loss that's occurred recently And I just wanted to sort of conclude the program with those condolences, Charlotte, and the girls, Megan and I just really feel for y'all up there in Missouri. So anyway, that's something that's happened within our family here lately. But anyway, we're trying to get on down the road. Some things happen to us that are sad-filled moments. We've got to start picking ourselves up and going forward, and also remembering that maybe this modern medical model has created more problems. Iatrogenesis is a word that comes to my mind. I was out in Las Vegas a few months ago, the second week of July, and John Mackey got up and gave a fine speech on the 3 major causes of death in the country. And number 1, he set out as heart disease. Number 2 was cancer, and the third one was medical treatment as the third largest cause of death in the country. Hey, this health care bill, we've got to rethink it. They're just trying to come up with ways to pay for more pharmaceuticals, to pay for more drugs, to pay for more medical treatment. If medical treatment results in the third leading cause of death in the country, well, I don't want this medical treatment. I don't care who pays for it. That's where I stand. I want to come down on the preventative side, the side where maybe we can start building down the number of ill people and building up the number of healthful people. We've got food problems, we've got fluoride problems, we've got chemtrails coming down on us from the skies. Who knows what's in this stuff? We've got to wake up. We've got to wake up and come out of this sleep state and see the world for what it really is. And you do that through forgiveness. If we start forgiving ourselves and others, we can attain a greater state of wakefulness and enlightenment. Anyway, I'm going to sign off a little bit earlier tonight. Our guests are gone now, and I want to thank Nikki Rapana for being with us, and I want to thank the young Republicans of Texas A&M also for being with us and supplying us a real fine guest who testified as to their activities on. We're going to have a protest tomorrow here at Texas A&M. It's at Spence Park. Come on down and join in. I'm going in to listen to the speech tomorrow in the Ruddy Theater. I'm not going in there to be derogatory or anything else. I'm going in there to listen to the speech, and then I'm coming out and I'm going to interview in the park, Spence Park, tomorrow afternoon, late tomorrow afternoon. I'm going to be interviewing some students and people out there, and we're going to get some views and comments and concerns from the young people that are students here up to the adults that came in from all over, Tea Party people, Ron Paul people, Deborah Medina supporters, or whoever they might be that or have real concerns. Deborah Medina, we want to say hello to you out there, and we wish you well in your election. But thank you for listening and viewing this broadcast tonight. We're live webcasting from College Station, and this is October 15, 2009. Your guest is George Butler. That's me. They say I look crazy sometimes. I got crazy photographs out there. We want to thank Lawana Munden for helping us and being in contact with us from Houston and giving us a lot of help in getting here and advice. And we want to thank most of all the Aggies that have given their lives for this country. And we certainly appreciate and respect so much that Silver Taps ceremony that takes place here. Anyway, we're loyal Texans. We're loyal Americans. We're here. We're standing firm against some of the things and some of the policies that we do not believe in. And we believe that there's revolution in the air. People are not happy in this country. And Barack Obama, you need to change your policies. You need to listen to a lot of our conservative, moderate people out here. We might be called the silent majority. But the silent majority is yelling now, and they're protesting. They're out on the protest lines. So maybe President Obama, maybe that might mean more than anything is to watch the silent majority become alive and start yelling and protesting, because they're not quiet anymore and they're not silent. We want to thank everyone for viewing this audience tonight, And so thank you very much. We're going to go to 1 minute of silence before we sign off, but thank you very much for supporting our program. Thank you and good night.